One of the interesting things when we've got Matt back, we lost him for a second thanks to the technical glitches that are happening. Is Mercury in retrograde? What is happening? One of the interesting things on the Trump messaging, and I've been waiting for this piece of his messaging, and finally they're doing it. The people running his campaign are top notch. This ad is amazing. Right now it's just running on X. It should get a wider berth. I'll just describe it before it airs for the listening audience. It's in one of those sketch modes, like, how you can make your pictures if you hit different things look like it's just been sketched out with a pencil. It's in that kind of format, and it's very effective. And the thing that's so effective about it is it's Trump being inspirational, not just uplifting, but like, this is how you get over life's challenges. Watch this.
If I give you one message to hold in your hearts today, it's this. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider because it's the outsiders who change the world and who make a real and lasting difference. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. You must keep pushing forward.
That's awesome, Matt.
Great ad. Just a great ad. And very much in keeping with the messages that we saw at the RNC this week. I was particularly happy to see, I think it was on the first day, it was to make America wealthy again. Right. People, I think this racial determinism in politics is so mistaken, especially when it comes to immigrant communities. And there's immigrant communities in every single racial classifications too, which makes it even more absurd. But the people who come here to this country, including J.D. Vance's wife's parents and others, yes, you're coming here to escape poverty, including some of the immigrants that Donald Trump talks less favorably about. But a lot of people come here to get rich too, or like they come here to escape poverty, and their dream is to get as wealthy as they can. It is the American dream. Donald Trump has always been an aspirational figure. It's something that his fellow elites look down upon him because he's an outer borough guy. He's not an inner borough. He didn't make it on the inside of finance and media and the stuff that you succeed in New York. He kind of came with some family help and got into real estate, which is always seen as a grubby business in New York among the fancy pants type of people. And he has always had this sense of connection with those. And this is part of the working class shift of the Republican Party, which working class, like in the most crude definition, are people like me. They don't have college degrees. I'm not calling myself working class. That's just technically a joke. But who doesn't have college degrees? Well, lots of immigrants don't have first and second generation. So usually by the second generation they do. But the first ones don't. A lot of people of color, or however we're calling whatever minority communities today, also a lot of Hispanics. And this sense, the Democratic Party for years was coasting on this sense of that Hispanics will always be with us. And of course, the black vote will always be 90-10 or something like that. There's no reason to make that automatic. And a lot of the ways that this changes, not only in this country, but in almost every Western country that you can think of where there has been a populist takeover, we have seen, and Patrick Ruffini, the pollster, has talked about this a great deal, you have seen a shift in working class allegiances from the left parties to the right parties, because the left parties have become more elite in their tastes, in their sort of sense of condescensions, in their treatment of culture. And the right has just been more kind of like, hey, everyone's welcome. Right. That's what the left told itself for a long time that it was doing and that it was supposed to be doing. But it's not actually how this is going to be. I was struck yesterday and again all throughout the convention of one of the notes that was hit, which is that we can speak whatever we want. No one told me I couldn't say anything in this speech. Donald Trump is never going to tell you what to say. Because how do people experience, everyday normal people, experience that kind of cultural elite condescension that they hate. It is when they say something and they get corrected, when they're sort of forced to recite something they don't necessarily believe during a human resources meeting at work. It's these little things. They hate to get their language policed. You feel that. Our listeners at Fifth Column have been telling this from day one of our podcast. They hate those experiences. And so people can recognize that, because the cultural side, not necessarily the Democratic Party at all, although that comes into it too, but the cultural side of the left has been telling people what they can and cannot say. And human beings hate that. Like, stop doing that.
Well, Americans hate that.
Yes.
It's not in our cultural DNA.
Especially, yes.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about it because truly that's one of the reasons we live here, right? Like we were born here, and we were born to parents who came here, and all of that, it's baked into who we are. We don't want to be told what to think, what to say, how to say it. If you want to live like that, go live someplace else. That's not the United States of America. Every country has its own culture, and some are weirder than others. When we were over in Sweden in June, they told us that all the kids in K through 12 call their teachers by their first names. I was like, what? Ew. I mean, we do not let our kids call any grown-up by their first name. It's a no. And a lot of our friends will be like, oh, you guys could probably come over. You'd be like, I'm Kmele. And I'd be like, no. And my kids know that. So it's a nice thing to offer. But it's just culturally in the United States, we don't like to be told how to speak. And Trump's been, the champion of that. On the working class point, can I play this? It's one of my favorite moments of last night. Steve Krakauer, our executive producer, was on the floor, and he said it went over huge with the people around him. And this is yet another appeal that Trump is pushing in a new pitch he's making, that we should not be taxing the tips that service members make. He gave us some insight into how he decided to offer that pitch. Watch.
We're having dinner at a beautiful restaurant in the Trump building on the Strip, and it's a great building, and the waitress comes over. How's everything going? A really nice person. How's everything? Oh, sir, it's so tough. The government's after me all the time on tips, tips, tips. I said, well, they give you cash. Would they be able to find them? She said, actually, and I didn't know this, she said, very little cash is given. It's all put right on the check. And they come in and they take so much of our money, it's just ridiculous. But I said to her, let me just ask you a question. Would you be happy if you had no tax on tips? She said, what a great idea. I got my information from a very smart waitress. That's better than spending millions of dollars. And everybody loves it. Waitresses and caddies and drivers.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good. And it's interesting that Joe Biden has kind of an analogous proposal in some respects, this like top-down federal rent control that he's proposing. And one would imagine that there might be similarly kind of enthusiastic support for this.
But it's like, good luck with that. That's so impossible.
And also, anyone who has a slightly well-informed understanding of economics, you got a little bit of experience with rent control. We know how these policies frequently don't work and backfire in important ways. I mean, Donald Trump just has a stronger hand with a policy like this. I mean, frankly, I'm thinking about how I can find myself in a position where I can just accept more of my income in tips, because that would be better for me too. So there's a way to figure that out, and they don't craft this law in a very careful way. Maybe I'll benefit from that too.
Sounds pretty good.
But it's just great. And it sounds organic. And it's another one of those moments where Donald Trump is kind of shooting from the hip, creating policy on the fly in this really organic way. And it says a great deal about like where the campaign is drawing energy, where it's drawing its strength from at the moment, and where a more elite establishment campaign run by Democrats at this point is drawing their strength from. And it's interesting to wonder like about a situation where you've got an opportunity to have either Brad Pitt or Mr. Beast come and do like remarks at your convention. And we're in a moment where Mr. Beast is probably a hell of a lot more valuable than Brad Pitt is. And that is what you see on display in so much of what was at the RNC. We talk about like the memes and kids, you got
Hulk Hogan, you got Kid Rock, you've got this blatant and on the nose reach out to the working class voters who are coming home to Trump in droves. This was never a traditional Republican voting bloc. And I will say, I've said this before, and so have others. I do think Trump's rough language, which I also share, as listeners to the show know. I can't help it. It was the lawyer years. Right, some locker room talk. Yeah, no, I don't go perverted. I just go, I've got some choice 4-letter words that I like to use here or there. Anyway, Trump uses those. And I think that's like his New York City construction. Even though he is a rich guy, it shows people, and it is authentic. He's relatable. He's funny. Doesn't take himself too seriously. And he did make a funny reference to this problem in air quotes last night. Listen to Saad 4.
He wrote me a note recently. I have a lot of respect for him. Sir, I love your storytelling. I think it's great in front of these big rallies. But sir, please do me one favor. It won't make any difference. Please don't use any foul language. I was a little embarrassed. He said, it won't make any difference. Actually, it does. The story's not quite as good, but I've been very good. The story is not quite as good, to be honest. I've got to have a little talk with Franklin, but he was great. My father would take me to see Billy Graham at Yankee Stadium. He had the biggest rallies you've ever seen. He was a good rally guy, too. But I love Franklin Graham. I think Franklin's been fantastic, and I'm just working so hard to adhere to his note to me. I'm working hard on it, Franklin.
He's he's just naturally funny and witty. All that, Trump appealing, I just don't think, whatever, the speech was long. That's not going to do it. Kamala Harris, she's incapable of that kind of a moment. You guys, you've seen her on the swearing alone. Not that you have to swear to be president, but on the swearing alone, you saw her at that event. They sent her out and she tried to drop an F-bomb. And it just looks so astroturfy, right?
Yeah.
It was trying too hard. If you weren't following the news, a massive hit to the US dollar just came in June when Saudi Arabia did not renew its 50-year petrodollar deal with the US. Since 1974, Saudi Arabia has sold oil exclusively in US dollars. And that was huge to our global economic dominance. Now they want options other than the dollar. So ask yourself, if there's less demand for the dollar, what happens next? Look, it's reasons like this that Americans are looking at Birch Gold Group. For over 20 years, Birch Gold has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. To learn more, text the word MK to 989898 and claim your free, no-obligation info kit on gold. That's MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold has earned the trust of so many with their education-first approach, their thousands of happy customers, and many 5-star reviews. Consider protecting your savings with gold before the dollar plunges any further. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.